Cubs take 2 out of 3 against the Pirates. Now they go up against one of the best teams in baseball, talent-wise, the Atlanta Braves. We're going to talk about this 3-game set, but we're going to look back at what happened in Pittsburgh because there's a lot to build on there for the Cubs. Kyle Hendricks looked like Kyle Hendricks again. Thank you. Jamison Tallion missed in the rotation in Pittsburgh, but they're telling us that he's going to be all right. Christopher Morel, he reminds me of Aramis Ramírez. I'm going to tell you why. And could Luis Vasquez help this Cubs team in the absence of Dansby Swanson? And also, I'm giving Patrick Wisdom some love. Tell you what, that was really a great game he played on Sunday. All that and more right here on the Cubs Baseball channel. Like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Hit the bell so you know when we're live. And a lot of times we jump on live or drop new content when something's breaking with Cubs baseball. So let's get this thing started. Great to have all of you guys here. And also great to see the Cubs finding a way to win. Man, I tell you what, Craig Counsell's good. Hopefully the show's half as good. Let's get it going. Peace, everybody. Welcome to the Cubs Baseball channel. I'm broadcaster Mick on the socials. And before we even say anything else, we just hit 5,000 subscribers to the Cubs Baseball channel. This channel started at the All-Star break last year. Actually, at the trade deadline last year, so even past that. And I didn't know when we started what this was going to be. I just thought, I want to talk Cubs baseball, and I want to do it having fun, but being honest, and then sharing, my knowledge of spending, 20 years in the organization and 40 years as a Cubs fan. And honestly, it's been a lot better than I ever could have expected because of you guys. I love the comment section. Some of you guys get in there and you tell me what you don't like. Some of you guys tell me what you do like. We all talk about what we think would be best for the Cubs. But I can tell you it's a worldwide thing. We're only getting bigger. And I can't thank you guys enough for being part of this. From the bottom of my heart, man, thank you so much. All right, let's get this thing started because I thought that the Cubs had a really important win Sunday against the Pirates. Cubs are one of only 3 teams in baseball that haven't lost back-to-back series this year. And honestly, I feel like a part of that is Craig Counsell. I've been just blown away at how good he has been as the skipper of the team. He's just so smart. We used to talk about David Ross last year, kind of where he slotted in, how good he was or he wasn't. But I'm really comfortable in saying that I think Craig Counsell, I could argue he's the best manager in baseball. When something goes wrong, he figures out a way to make it go right. When new guys are coming in and they're unproven or they're struggling, he figures out a way to give them confidence and make them better. He's good at managing. He's not perfect at making decisions, but no one ever will be. But honestly, it has a Joe Madden feel to it to me. I remember when Joe Madden came in, immediately there was a different confidence. There was a different personality. And I'm not saying this is the Joe Madden personality, but I'm saying that this is a personality that works and that wins. And that's exciting. Kyle Hendricks looked really good in his return from the IL. Now, is he ever going to be the Kyle Hendricks that we saw in 2016 coming up? No, but you know what? 5 innings, gave up a home run, did walk 4 batters, but struck out 5. I almost feel like the walks to him, because he doesn't have the same stuff that he had before, is he's just not going to make a mistake and get himself beat. So if he's got to walk someone just to stay out of a spot where he's giving up hits at this point in his career, I'm fine with that. Now, he's a guy that knows where he's throwing everything. And he's not a pitcher that's ever walked a lot of batters. But he's not the same pitcher that he was in the past. And so the bottom line is just get us, an inning without giving up runs. And if you can do that, and sometimes that includes walks, then walk guys. Because he's been hit so hard with the home runs and and obviously all the hits he's allowed. that if he feels like he's going to get a better matchup with the next guy and can get that next guy, I'm comfortable with that. I saw him in Tennessee. He was reworking his strategy, using more breaking balls. He looked a lot better. He just looked a lot more comfortable with where he is right now in his career. And the thing I like about him the most is he's smart. Yeah, he's smart. He's calculated. He's not doing anything without kind of having a game plan to go with it. I don't know what his future is going to be, whether it's going to be in the starting rotation or in the bullpen. I tend to think that his future is going to be in the bullpen, right? Justin Steele, Javier Assad. Obviously, if Tallion's healthy, Justin Steele, you start counting these guys. Wisniewski's pitched better than him. Ben Brown's been better than him. And I feel like watching him the first couple of times through the rotation. Oh, yeah, don't forget about Shota Imanaga, right? Tonight's starter. But my point is this, is I just feel like there's other options out there that are a lot better, but he can still get outs. And I think that's really valuable. Just a matter of Craig Counsell figuring out where that's going to slot in with this team. And that's one of the things I like about Craig Counsell so much, is that he's going to go out there and figure out a way to utilize Hendricks if Hendricks is getting things done. The reason that he started, and I got to say this too, watching the post-game press conferences with Craig Counsell, he was asked after the last start by Kyle Hendricks about, when he was in Iowa, what the future was going to be for him. And he goes, oh, he's starting on Sunday. But he gave this look. And that look to me was, I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure out if that look was, he's going to be in the minor leagues for a while, don't ask me, or if he's an option, we got him lined up for Sunday because we know that we might need him for that day. And that's exactly what happened. So as we get to know Craig Counsell as a manager, those are things that I look for. Just body language, the way that guys say things, because none of those, the really good managers never want to lie. But they're not also going to tell you, come out and say, hey, we got him lined up if our starter's hurt, he's got a back problem, because that's just not how it goes. So we'll see what happens, but great planning by the Cubs to have Hendricks ready if you needed him. And he gave you 5 innings of, 1-run baseball, 2-hit baseball on Sunday. And you still have him as an option as you move forward. And I don't know how things are going to look. I don't even know when Jordan Wicks is going to be back with the forearm stiffness. But if I'm the Cubs, I'm being very gentle with that, just because the starting rotation's been so good. I don't need him in there further injuring himself when I've got a starting rotation of the guys that I have. Now, it would be nice to have him back. The bullpen scares the daylights out of me. And I know you guys feel the same way, but we're stuck with this bullpen right now because until teams fall out of the mix, there's not going to be a lot of options as far as the deals you can make to add pitchers that could help you in that bullpen. And, some of this stuff, and I saw in the comment section, some of you guys were saying, hey, they should have took care of this in free agency. And I'm not arguing with that. But they did get El Monte, who's been, he's been decent, maybe a little better than decent, been good at times. They got Neris. He's been pretty good. Crazy how Neris is, because it's always like you're always on the edge of your seat. But at the same time, it seems like he always kind of figures out a way. I mean, Nico saved him in Sunday's game with that diving catch. And that's something that I want to get into as well. But nonetheless, you got him, but it would have been nice to have someone else. Mark Leiter Jr. has been great. He's just followed what he did last year to what he's doing this year. And Julian Mayweather, who knows when he's going to be back or isn't going to be back. So the Cubs have got to find some options. But when, some of these guys come in, they're competitive is about as good as you can say about them. You just want them to kind of be competitive, and the Cubs got to do better in the bullpen area. Christopher Morel starting to remind me of Aramis Ramírez. One of my favorite Cubs was Aramis. Loved him. And I get that same kind of vibe from Morel. Maybe the batting average isn't going to be high, but if you mess up and leave one over the plate, he's going to crank it. Another home run in that game Sunday. That's why the Cubs are trying so hard to get him ready to be the third baseman for all the innings. And again, he was lifted, and you have to at this point because you still don't trust him defensively, but he's getting better defensively. The batting average isn't, as where he wants it right now. But I'll tell you what, the guy's always a threat to park one. And I always thought that about Aramis. I thought Aramis was one of those guys that, like you get him in there, you get him at the plate, and anything can happen. And when you look back over since Ron Santo, he's one of the best third basemen the Cubs have had. And I don't think Morel's that far off, even with the learning that's going on right now at third base. It's exciting kind of seeing Morel, turn the corner here. Because I'll tell you what, over the last couple of weeks, he has been so crucial to what the Cubs are doing with the home runs. And he hasn't been that bad of a third baseman. I don't feel like he's the same liability that he was at the beginning of the year. I think he's still got to grow, but it's exciting. It really is. I'm glad that he's such a great guy too. I'm glad that he's doing so well. Now I threw this in here because as good as Madrigal's been, like filling in and playing third base late, and I just feel like third base for him, it just feels like he's so good defensively. Second base to me, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just that he hasn't played it in a while, but he's just not as good to me at second base. Here's Luis Vasquez in AAA Iowa. Maybe the bat hasn't been there. His bat has kind of lagged behind his defense all the way through his professional career. He's always been kind of a defense first, Gold Glove caliber shortstop. And then all of a sudden last year in AA, his bat came along, and then he got to AAA, hit last year, not doing as much this year with the bat. But I'm watching the Cubs play defense, and I feel like Nico can handle shortstop, but I don't think he's got the same type of range that Vasquez has. Matter of fact, it's not a think thing. He doesn't have the same range that Vasquez has. He doesn't have the same arm that Vasquez has. And some of you guys haven't seen Luis Vasquez. He's on the 40-man roster of the Cubs. He can play defense. I mean, elite defense. And watching some of the plays with Madrigal at second base, I'm going, you don't have to be in the spot if you're the Cubs. You know what I'm saying? Where you have to really rely on Madrigal. He's good, but he's not as good as Nico at second base. You could move Nico back to second, have Vasquez at shortstop, and that may be something that's coming down the pike. I mean, if I was the Cubs, I would make that move. So maybe by the time you see this, it'll happen. I don't know. I mean, that's the thing about doing the podcast. Like, you throw it out there, and then, but if it was me, if I was Jed, I'd do this. I'd just go ahead and bring Vasquez up and move Nico back to second, because I just felt like Madrigal looked so out of place at second base. And it just could be that he's rusty in that spot. But Vasquez is ready for an opportunity. You guys are going to love watching him play defense. Don't know if he's going to hit or not, but I know that he's going to field. And we're playing in so many of these close games. Every single, defensive play matters. You give up these infield hits, balls that I watch that Nico didn't make the play on. He just got to it, but he didn't make the out. Vasquez makes those outs. But that's what I'm saying. It's not a shot on Nico. Vasquez is when I say Gold Glove caliber, I'm serious. Like, he's a Gold Glove caliber. If I can get that out 3 times fast, right? Gold Glove caliber. Man, I'm killing myself. Anyway, he's a Gold Glove caliber shortstop, and he's someone that you have on the 40-man. Maybe do that move. But if that move includes moving Pete Crow Armstrong down, don't do it, because I love having him in the outfield. I love having him running the bases. I think he makes the Cubs a lot better. But I think you can figure out a way to have both of those guys on the team, and we'll see what happens moving forward. Now, I've got to give this guy love because you guys know I've it hasn't always been on the top of my favorite player list, maybe favorite people list, because he is such a cool guy and you really like him as a person, Patrick Wisdom. But the defense sometimes it drives you nuts. The strikeouts drive you nuts. But Sunday's game is a great example of how Counsell is putting him in a position to succeed. And he had the home run in the 10th inning, turned out to be huge. Turned out to be a difference maker in that ball game. But he swatted the ball. He was just a menace to the Pirates in that game. And I was glad to see it. Good for him. The Cubs don't win without Wisdom Sunday. And I feel like this role that we're seeing him kind of slide into is a great role for him. Not to say that that's not what they tried to do with him last year, but Craig Counsell is just so good at figuring out what your best attribute to the team is and then putting you in a spot to succeed. And I love that. So congratulations to the Cubs. They don't win the game without Wisdom. And I'm excited to see some more Wisdom in these games against these lefties and hit some home runs, long home runs, like hit line drives, like just whack the ball around the park, because that's what he did. He was punishing the baseball Sunday. All right, so as we take on the Braves, I'm still not settled with this bullpen. Okay. I mean, I feel like there's some guys in the bullpen that I really, when they come into the game, Lovelady, I'm scared to death. I just don't think he's a very good pitcher. I mean, I guess his just under 8 ERA is an indicator of that. But if Luke Little doesn't get better at throwing strikes, then Lovelady might stay just because you don't have left-handed options. But if I'm the Cubs, I'm looking at that as far as helping this team, maybe with making some deals. We'll see. But when he comes in the game, he's just not a good option. He's just not a good let's call it what it is. I mean, he's a minor league AAA guy pitching in the big leagues, and he gets exposed a lot. I thought Brewer came into the game and wasn't too bad. Leiter Jr. It has been so good for the Cubs. We talked about Neris. Alzolay gave up the 2-run homer, but he didn't give up 3 runs, so you win. And I look at the bullpen, and I'm trying to figure out within the Cubs system right now, what the best options are. I talked about Michael Arias in Double-A, but he struggled a little bit lately. Porter Hodge, I've talked about him. Maybe Carl Edwards Jr. I mean, you got CJ down there in AAA. He's got experience. Let him come up there, and if he fails, release him, right? I mean, but if he succeeds, you got something. At least you got somebody that's been through the battles before. I go back to I feel like one of the worst losses that the Cubs have had, which was Saturday's loss. You come all the way back, and you get the lead, and then, Thompson gets hit around, and Lovelady gets, gives up runs, and Quas, actually give Quas credit, even though he got optioned back to the minors yesterday, pitched well. But you got to find options with this bullpen. And those options could be making deals. But I talked about it earlier. You've got to be patient for these deals, because right now a lot of teams still feel like they're in the mix. And if you're out of it already, I mean, we're not even like halfway through May yet, then your team stinks, and you probably don't have a lot of relievers that are going to come in and help us for the price that you'd pay to get them. What about Cade Horton? Cade Horton, I still think is going to be a great Cub and big piece of the future. Hit hard, though, in his last start against Iowa. This is part of the growing and the development process that you have as a minor leaguer. The guy really hasn't struggled at all in the minor leagues. And he got promoted from Double-A. And the reason why is that he wasn't struggling there. So now he's got the AAA. You've got better hitters. And, he had his first rough game, gave up a grand slam, got hit around pretty good, walked some batters. So we'll see how he bounces back. But I don't put him as an option right now. I think you got to keep, if you're the Cubs and you're thinking about him as being, your future, you want to have him right there, him and Justin Steele as your 1-2 punch. You got to let him develop. And so, that's kind of where things are. Cubs will throw Shota Imanaga. When I'm recording this, the Braves have not announced their starter yet, but this is going to be a really big test for Imanaga going to Atlanta, taking on the Braves. That lineup that the Braves throw out there is amongst one of the toughest in baseball. They got a lot of guys that can take you deep. They got a lot of guys that can hit. I'm definitely curious to see what he does. 6:20 tonight from Atlanta, game 1 of 3, and the Cubs taking on the Braves. I mean, this is, I think that this could potentially be a National League Championship Series preview. And some of you guys are going to go, "Oh, come on, Mick." No, I'm serious. The Cubs are some bullpen pieces away from disappearing in the division and being gone. And that's why I'm telling you, this team is doing some special things. They're winning the tight games. They're doing the little things right. They've played through their best players being on the IL, and they didn't take a step back. You've got a system that the Cubs have built right now that's, that people use the term loaded. I'm not saying that it's loaded. I'm just saying that you have a lot of options. If you lose players, position players, you have other guys that can slot in, which is why I'm saying, hey, let's give Vasquez a chance. And Craig Counsell is going to be like, hey, dude, just go play shortstop. I don't care if you hit. And make it relaxing on him. There were some plays in that game Sunday that he makes, and maybe you don't even get into extra innings. So that's my point. Anyway, get in the comments section, guys. Thanks for hanging out. We'll have Anthony back on here tomorrow, and we'll talk some more Cubs baseball with you. I'll jump on with him. But can't thank you guys enough, again, from the bottom of my heart, getting us to 5,000 subscribers. If you're not a subscriber, please do subscribe. We talk Cubs baseball here every day, and I love all of you guys. Let's hope today is as good as yesterday was. Go Cubs.